It won't be easy. It'll never be easy. But we're both still here, aren't we?
And that, ladies and gentlemen, is how you do a finale. Thank you, Sally, for giving us something good. Thank you so much, because I can't take any more bad finales, you know? I've done my time with Killing Eve. I've done my time with Generation Q. I'm done. I don't know where to begin. This finale was fantastic. It was flawless. There is not one thing I could criticize about this finale, because the whole thing just had me sucked in from beginning to end. Everything was good. The acting, the directing, the cinematography, the writing, all of it was just chef's kiss. It was such a good way to end season 2. And now it's finished. I've got nothing left in my life. Hi guys, welcome to a video, and in today's video I'm just going to be reviewing the finale of season 2 of Gentleman Jack. I was just minding my own business, sipping some tea, being perfectly respectable, when all of a sudden, out of nowhere, Anne Lister just starts giving it to Mariana like that, and I choked on my tea. I passed out, and then I was revived through sheer lesbianism. I feel like this episode has done this season justice. I mean, this whole season has been leading up to this finale, and they have pulled it off. They have knocked it out of the park. Oh my god, it was good. Can you tell that I enjoyed it? Can you tell? We have a lot to talk about. We have a lot to talk about. So let's get into it. So the episode starts with Anne and Anne in London, where tensions are high between the two. Anne Walker is irritable with Anne because they're in London, and yet Anne won't introduce her to some of her high society friends, which is understandably hurtful for Anne Walker, given that she's Anne's wife and often feels sidelined by her despite that. I do understand Anne's reasoning for not introducing her, but I also understand why that's frustrating for Anne Walker, and how it can be perceived as Anne hiding her away to some degree. This is then followed by Anne sat at the dinner table with her friends, and side note, what went down between Anne and Lady Cameron? Because there were some looks being exchanged at that dinner table, that is all I'm saying. And I found this whole dining room scene quite interesting, because you can see how Anne has to watch what she says about Anne Walker in front of others. She clearly wants to refer to her as her wife, but often has to stop herself. And it's also interesting because you can see she's feeling some type of way about the subject of children. She says to Lady Cameron that surely children are the cement of any marriage, and it becomes apparent in this episode that Anne is almost mourning the fact that her and Anne Walker can't have children together. And we can see her wondering if their marriage to one another is not as strong because of that fact. I have to say, all throughout this episode, I was just waiting for Anne Walker to explode. Every time her and Anne were alone together, I was like, here it comes, and then it finally came. Anne and Anne are sat in the carriage, and Anne is talking about finances, which finally causes Anne Walker to snap. She lets it all out, and if I'm honest, she does nothing but spit the facts. Anne Lister has hidden her away, treated her like an afterthought, cheated on her, and clearly does have a financial interest in her, which raises a lot of questions about the true nature of their relationship. So all of this has put a lot of pressure on the both of them, and Anne Walker goes as far as to suggest that she wants to part ways with Anne because of it. And we also see that she's still, after all this time, questioning the morality of their romantic relationship. I have to say, this scene is so emotional between the two of them, and both Sophie and Saran manage to convey all the complex emotions that come with a relationship tearing at the seams between two people perfectly. They both acted the house down in this episode. But I have to say, Anne looks so good in an open shirt. It is hard to stay mad at her when she's looking like that. Following this, there's a very emotional scene at the church where Anne has an existential crisis and questions her entire life and being. This scene is emotional because you can see that Anne has been holding in all of these anxieties and thoughts, not only about herself, but her relationship with Anne Walker. And it's here you can see that once again, it seems Anne does place some importance on having a child in a marriage, and we can see that it really pains her that she can't have one with Anne Walker. I think this is perhaps because she thinks this is what Anne Walker wants as opposed to what she herself wants, but this is purely my own speculation. So that scene with Anne daydreaming about Mariana threw me, because at first I thought Mariana was actually there and Anne was cheating yet again, and then I thought it was a flashback before I finally realised it was a daydream with Anne clearly missing what she had with Mariana. And this is interesting because it shows a part of her is still with Mariana, even though that chapter is closed. And you have to wonder, can a connection that deep between two people ever really go away completely, even if you find somebody else that you want to spend your life with? And throughout this episode, it's clear that there's always going to be these question marks hanging over the Anne's relationship. Was money a motivating factor which presided love? Was Mariana the true love of Anne's life? And these questions in particular have been ongoing throughout this entire season. Moving on to Mr. Sutherland, who is just a total snake this episode and doing his best to try and avoid signing those deeds and painting Anne Lister as a predatory, gold-digging, undesirable number one. He is desperate to put a wrench in Anne Walker's plans, and when he tries it with Mr. Grey, it is so satisfying to see him get schooled on lesbian accusations and the law. This is probably one of the few areas where people not taking lesbianism seriously or thinking that it's not possible benefited lesbians, especially in that time. Because how do you tear someone down about something which supposedly doesn't exist, especially in the eyes of the law? There's also a very interesting shift in the relationship between Anne and Marion this episode. Marion is really unhappy and wants to leave Shibden. And furthermore, we learn that Mr. Abbott has disassociated himself from her because of the accusations flying around about Anne Lister and Anne Walker. And at this point, we can see how Anne's relationship with Anne Walker is really starting to take a toll on her relationship with her family. And of course, this isn't Anne's fault, but given the way that she's treated Marion over Mr. Abbott, I can't really blame Marion for wanting to put some space between them. Anne finally redeems herself somewhat when she is clever enough to think ahead and put Mr. Sutherland in a position where he finally has to come clean about the lies he's told Anne Walker, and Anne lets him have it. It was just delicious to watch, and you really have to wonder what would have happened to Anne Walker without Anne there to help her stand up for herself. I dread to think. My God, this was such an emotional episode, especially with Tib's mother dying. On top of everything else that was going on, there was just so many shifting relationship dynamics this episode and touching moments that were all threaded perfectly together. But what I loved most about this finale was the way that they ended it, with Anne and Anne back in a good place and reflecting on their relationship. When Anne says, "We are the only people in the whole world, on earth, who want us to be together. It won't be easy. It will never be easy. We're both still here, aren't we?" It really cements how their relationship was rooted in love, and it puts all those other anxieties about the nature of their relationship to bed. Because, the odds were stacked against them. No one wanted them to be together, and people made their lives difficult, and yet they stayed together through it all. And I don't think they would have if love didn't sit at the core of their relationship. And that's what makes Gentleman Jack a love story for the ages, quite literally. Overall, I thought this finale was perfect. I really, really loved the finale. I don't think they could have made a better finale for this season. It was a perfect way to release all the tension that's been building up through the season, but at the same time restore peace and reconciliation. It was just perfectly done. And they just left it on such a beautiful and touching note. It was so romantic. And that's one of the things I love about this show, because in both the first season and the second season, they always bring it back to a place of love between Anne and Anne. And really that is what sits at the heart of this show. And it just shone through this episode. Oh, it was perfect. Okay guys, if you've seen the finale, let me know what you thought of it down in the comments section below. If you're a lesbian, if you're a fan of Anne Lister giving it to another woman, or several other women, come and join the Sapphic Underground Club. Just come and join the club. If that did not convince you, I don't know what will. Don't forget to subscribe for instant disappointment, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye.